happening between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the VRRC for round number 2 of our latest 8-week championship, and we are mini racing once more after a very exciting opening 2 rounds a week ago at Donington Park. We now travel, actually not all that far away really, down to the home of British Motorsport and the Silverstone circuit, the international variant, playing host to rounds 3 and 4 of our mini JCW Racing League. Andy McEwen back with you once more this week, and delighted to be reunited with my regular co-commentator Jack Oliphant for this week. Richard John Neal, don't worry, he will be back. We will be bringing you some form of professional commentary before the season is out, but for tonight, you're back with us too. And Jack, happy to have you back. Happy to be back as well for the second round of what's already turning into a hugely exciting championship.
Well, there was never much doubt in that one, was it? It's a bit of a shame that I had to miss last week, but a friend's 30th birthday ended up getting in the way. How dare he arrange his date of birth on a VRRC? It's a horrible thing to do in my perspective. But anyway, I am excited. As we said, it was always a pretty much sure thing that the minis were always going to provide some absolutely cracking entertainment, and the British circuits we've got on offer are only getting better from here and more interesting, and of course, they start to vary quite massively, don't they?
Yes, they do indeed. We're spanning the length and breadth of the British Isles, actually, across this championship, which is something nice, something different, something we haven't really had the opportunity to do all that much in the past. Now, as we said a week ago, we were at Donington Park. We had 2 very exciting races that produced exactly the kind of bumper-to-bumper mini racing that we were sort of expecting, really. And it was a really interesting picture at the top, actually. Joel Lask, who hasn't raced full-time with us for a couple of months or so now, well, he was straight back on the pace, top point scorer across the night after a win in the first race. Yeah, he was absolutely flying. Got back on the podium for race 2 as well with the reverse grid. And then the returning Brad Smith, who really was Mr. Consistency, missed out on a victory, but did have a pair of second place finishes a week ago. And so he's snapping at the heels of Joel Lask, just 4 points between them at the moment. And Josh Martin, third highest scorer last week. Nice to see him having a bit of a return to form as well. So interesting to see how Josh gets on this weekend, whether he can continue that now that he's carrying a little bit more of that pesky success ballast. We also had a driver of the round award that was handed out to Brad Smith, just because he hadn't raced with us for so long. He came back and was immediately back on the pace, and a deserving recipient of the driver of the round award. And again, he'll be hoping now to continue on in that vein of form this week. So that is how the early championship standings look, of course, at the top, because we've only had the 2 races. So Joel Lask, early points leader, Brad Smith second, and Josh Martin in third. Nicky Taylor fourth for HFT Racing, the real world mini racer, will be a bit disappointed, I think, that he only managed a best of third place in the first race. Got caught up in a few early battles in race 2, didn't make quite the forward progress he would have liked. And then a couple of new names, John Higgins and Tom Churchhouse. John Higgins didn't decide to race with us, actually, until I believe the morning of race day a week ago, when he saw Richard John Neal put out a social media post saying that he'd be commentating on the series, and the real world Hills Motorsport mechanic, MX5 racing team, Hills Motorsport, is already a race winner because he won the reverse grid race. Tom Churchhouse, another relatively new name to the VRRC, sits 6th ahead of Chris Blakey, Nathan Smith, Craig Curtis and Paul Laramie, all of whom are looking pacier than we've seen for quite some time, perhaps ever, actually, in some of their cases. and so hopefully they'll keep that going again here this week. So that's the championship standings tonight. In fact, there's the second page of the championship standings. We had a total, I think, of 20 drivers scoring points across the 2 races a week ago. And I'm sure some of those who didn't manage to score at Donington will be able to add to their points haul here this week. And there you can see at the bottom, a big story was the non-score of Kyle Felvers. Now, Kyle, granted, more of a GT racing specialist, you would have to say, but we know he's pretty handy in front-wheel drive these days. Wasn't feeling very well, he told us afterwards. Said he was feeling quite severely under the weather. Wasn't able to finish either of the races. In fact, didn't even start race 2 a week ago. That's it. That's his dropped score used up now, so can't really afford to have another bad night of racing. Hopefully he'll be able to bounce back in style here at Silverstone. Right, that's it for the championship standings. We arrive then here at Silverstone, as I've said, the home of British motorsport, and Jack, the Silverstone International Circuit is a bit of a hidden gem, really. It's not one of those layouts that get used a huge amount for high-profile race meetings, popular amongst club racers, though, and hopefully tonight we're going to see why.
Yeah, well, the national circuit is the normal one we go to, isn't it? That's the one where all the touring cars play on. It's, yeah, the most common one if you're not going to do the GP loop. The international, I think, splits opinion a little bit more, but there are some really good overtaking opportunities down in towards the Vale chicane, into Stowe, of course. Fast Abbey, a fast first corner, and into Village is always an overtaking opportunity. So really, you could probably argue there's actually more racing around this circuit, and hopefully the minis will provide that. If you want to have a quick look at what it looks like, then I'm glad to say that Andy is about to take you for a lap around in the mini.
So, the Silverstone International Circuit then. Nikki Taylor, our guide for a hot lap around what is quite a deceptively tricky circuit, actually. It's still got a couple of long straights, including the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight past the Silverstone wing, at the end of which you barrel into the almost flat-out right-hander at Abbey. Front-wheel drive car understeers over to the curb. You then hug that same curb through the left-hander at Farm to keep the car on the left-hand side of the road into the big braking zone at Village, one of the best overtaking opportunities on the circuit. Then we head into the loop flat out on this layout because we head down the link road and into the right-hander that heads out onto the Hanger Straight. So we've cut out a huge chunk of the Grand Prix circuit, but we rejoin that famed layout now, heading underneath the paddock entrance bridge. And already the drivers are looking towards the top of that crest and the turning point for Stowe Corner. Very late on the brakes, just there at the start of the curve. Roll the car in. The crest in the road just creates a bit of turn-in understeer, but Nikki Taylor manages that well. Careful of track limits on the exit before you drop down into the Vale, and again brake just at the start of the curve on the right-hand side and avoid the sausage curves through the club chicane, cutting plenty of that second curve, and then it's flat out from here to the line through Club Corner itself and back out onto the pit straight. It's still a relatively short lap, throws a lot at you in a short space of time, and always produces good racing. So that is the Silverstone International Circuit, and I don't know about you, Jack. I don't know whether you've driven it in real life. I haven't had that pleasure, but I've done a lot of sim racing around this place, and I find it quite a frustrating circuit because it looks very simple, really. When you look on a map, it's basically a square with a little corner chopped off, but it's very, very difficult and very easy to make a silly little mistake under braking, miss an apex, and it's a very momentum-based circuit. Miss an apex and you instantly lose 3, 4, 5 tenths of a second and your lap's ruined.
Yeah, it's like that on quite a few sort of these smaller circuits, isn't it? I have driven it in real life, only the once though. It's obviously the least popular Silverstone layout. I've driven the GP, I've driven the National quite a lot, and for some reason, when I was doing the GT4 Super Cup, they essentially decided it'd be a good idea to go for a test day, but the only one we could get to was on the international circuit, and we were racing the national circuit. So it didn't really make much sense to me, but we did it, I got back in the rhythm of it, and that's about as much as I can say. I didn't really particularly enjoy driving it, but having said that, on the sim, whenever we've gone to these events, with VRRC, we've tried to do it every so often. I've actually enjoyed it there more, but it is much harder to teach someone around the lap of the international than the national, showing that it's obviously a little bit harder to get to grips with. hopefully that kind of challenge will mean we'll be separating the drivers just that little bit more, and they'll have had to put those practice laps in, Andy, because of course the national circuit is one that they'll have done hundreds of times before. They'll have put thousands of laps in, whereas the international, hopefully we've seen people get that grind in with the Mini, trying to learn the car and the newish circuit as well. So I'm excited to see how they adapt. We know we've had some early quick runners as well. I think Andy Carroll was fairly high up on the order, wasn't he, going out of practice. We're now into qualifying, and this is where it counts.
Indeed so, and already drivers getting down to business. Nicky Taylor fastest with a 1:12.8. That's about a tenth of a second slower than the fastest practice time from the this evening's free practice session anyway, which was topped by Andy Carroll. Andy looking very rapid this week I should say. So too is Tom Churchhouse, though, right up there in the championship standings, right up there in the qualifying standings at the moment too. Second place is where he stays for now, but he looks as though he is bang on the pace. Good to see Carl Felvers up there. In fact, Carl Felvers improves as I say that onto the front row. Carl needs a good pair of races tonight to bounce back from what was, by anyone's standards, I think, a disastrous season opener last time out. Andy Carroll goes third. That knocks Churchhouse down to fourth, and the championship leader Joel Lask down into fifth position. Now, I would venture, Jack, that this is probably not the best of circuits really to be carrying a huge chunk of success ballast at, because it is quite stop-start. Both ends of the circuit feature at least one big braking zone and one big acceleration zone. Joel Lask arrives here tonight with 45 kilos on board. He and Brad Smith, in fact, both carrying 45 kilos of ballast. That, you would imagine, is going to have an effect.
Yeah, I imagine it would as well. I mean, of course, it's fairly flat. There's only one corner that has any kind of elevation, and actually you're looking at a camera angle that shows it off quite well there with Stowe, but you're only going up about 3 to 5 meters, aren't you, probably? It's probably a little bit more than that, but it's still not that big a deal. You're right, it is quite stop-starty, going through Club, going through Abbey, and down towards the sort of second and third corner is probably the most flowing this circuit gets, but apart from that, you're really anchoring on the brakes, you're really asking the engine to do a lot of work, and you're asking even more, obviously, if you've got that 45 kilos on board. I was just having a look at the championship as well. 5th place, John Higgins. You said that he only decided to turn up when he saw that Richard John Neal was commentating with us, Andy, if that's correct. Guess who's not here tonight? Richard John Neal. Guess who's not racing tonight? John Higgins. Clearly, we're the beater here, aren't we?
Yes, although I have commentated on his team owner and boss, therefore, Aidan Hills, for literally the entirety of Aidan's racing career. So, I'd like to think that that would have had some effect on whether he chose to be here. It is worth pointing out that we have 21 cars on the grid. Not a small grid by any stretch of the imagination, but compared to the 27 who entered the season opener at Donington Park, we have lost a few. Now, that's not because they've all fallen out with us, or Rich Hayden, or Silverstone. It's because, for some reason, and Jack, I can't quite figure out why, I think lots of them have decided to go out tonight and maybe a bite to eat. Perhaps there's a good film on at the cinema. I don't know why it just happened to be on VRRC night, but yeah, it's nice to see that the 21 drivers we have got their priorities right.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably something to do with the fact that it was Pancake Day yesterday.
Of course.
Maybe they missed it and they thought, oh God, I've got to skip racing today because I've got to get those pancakes in. John Churchhouse going on top of the order with a purple sector 1. That's a very, very quick time indeed. It's a 1 minute 12.7. Now, we did see a 1 minute 12.6, I believe, in practice. So Churchhouse is right at the top, strong end of the order. Nicky Taylor is towards that way as well. He's second place. Another 1 minute 12.7, but only 200th behind Churchhouse. And then you've got Kyle Felvers, the deemed front-wheel drive hater among us. I'm not having it anymore. He might hate it, but he's pretty quick, so I'm not having a bit of an excuse. Andy Carroll all the way down in 4th, Andy, which he's probably going to be slightly disappointed with 8 minutes to go, considering his practice times.
Yeah, he's not gone as quick as his practice time yet either, has he? He's not yet broken into the 112.7s. Tell you who will be happy, though, is Lee Piercy. Lee Piercy, 5th quickest at the moment, so he's looking right on the pace. Lee is not inside the top 10 in the points. He's 12th, actually, at the moment, but carrying no ballast, so that car is among the lightest cars on the grid. But that being said, still a very impressive performance. Chris Blakey, meanwhile, has just done a personal best in the second of the 3 sectors. So he's approaching the end of the lap and he's just finished the lap, in fact. Wasn't an improvement in time in the end because, of course, this being a relatively short circuit, just the 2 sectors for them to deal with. But Chris Blakey, we saw him have a few flashes of brilliance in the Porsches, didn't we? He was a regular podium finisher in the admittedly not terribly well supported Cayman class, but he, in the minis, a big grid where everyone's in the same car, Jack, Chris Blakey is showing that he's continuing to learn and continuing to get faster.
Yeah, which we love to see, because, well, Chris Blakey, he provides some entertainment. I think what you see is when they get quicker and quicker, the pace might come, but the racecraft still needs a little bit of etching, because, of course, you start to drive with the quick people, you start to race against them, how are you going to overtake them? It's a different kettle of fish than when you are racing in the midfield or racing towards the back end of the pack as well, because if you're racing hard at the back end of the pack, you're probably feeding on people's mistakes. They're probably bigger mistakes, and they probably happen more often. If you're trying to fight with the likes of Nicky Taylor and Kyle Felders and Joel Lask, the mistakes are a lot less frequent, and you almost have to force it out of them, so the racecraft becomes slightly different. And hopefully that's what Chris Blakey learned as he's getting quicker, and hopefully, obviously, they come in tandem with each other. You don't want to gain a load of pace and have no racecraft, because he can be a little bit dangerous at the front end of the field. Tom Potter is currently razzing around in 7th place as well. Now, I didn't get to see too many of the first 2 races, Andy, at Donington Park. Of course, I think the story of it is how young he is, and of course, in 7th place, doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, I mean, I keep joking that racing drivers get younger and younger as I get older and older, but this really is taking that to a new level. 12-year-old Thomas Potter, who I did spot, I think, in the YouTube chat earlier on, his sister Catherine was wishing him the very best of luck. So good evening, Catherine. Good to have you watching along. And I mean, I know it's sim racing, and there is this cliche, isn't there, that kids and teenagers, well, not even really a teenager yet, is he? But kids spend a lot of time on their Xboxes and PlayStations and various other gaming systems. And these days, I suppose, PCs, it's not a huge stretch to imagine that some of them have maybe got some sort of sim racing rig set up as well. But that is mightily impressive to see someone of such a young age out there and clearly running quickly. Now, it will be interesting to see what his racecraft is like. He had reasonable pace a week ago. I'm trying to look back at yeah, he didn't score hugely well last week, but I seem to recall him qualifying not far outside of the top 10, so he's got decent pace, but we haven't yet seen him racing inside the top 10. But honestly, I've no reason so far to suspect that he's going to be anything other than a very competent racer, and it's nice to have another name in the mix.
Well, we have had people, in terms of experience, we have had people who've driven with us for years and are over twice his age, 3 times his age, who have very questionable racecraft. So it is one of those things. Age doesn't equate to racecraft and experience. So Josh Martin jumping up to 5th place. Always a pleasure. I'm not leading on to Josh Martin slating racecraft for any particular reason. Luckily, Josh is one of the people who has a sense of humour and will laugh about those sort of things. So it is nice. You said at the beginning, Andy, it's nice to see Josh right at the sharp end again, mostly because we always enjoy talking to him.
We do indeed. Yes, sorry, that was really funny. Yes, we do like to have.
Every so often.
We do like to have Josh at the front, and yeah, he was bang on the pace at Donington, wasn't he? He is 5th quickest at the moment, but carrying quite a bit more weight now, 30 kilos on board, and yeah, he will be a force to be reckoned with, and it's about time, quite frankly, that Josh Martin's been a force to be reckoned with, because obviously he was a former champion. In fact, one of our most recent front-wheel drive championships, touring car championships that we did, he was the champion of, and then in subsequent touring car series went to the rear-wheel drive BMW. Perhaps maybe that wasn't the best move. Maybe he should be sticking with front-wheel drive cars. Maybe that's where his real area of expertise lies. Right then, back end of the top 10, we've got Johnny Ogden here, 9th fastest at the moment, personal best in sector 1 though, and it's an improvement in time but not position. Stays where he was, 9th place, which is, Jack, 1 place ahead of our current championship leader, Joel Lask. So early days, I know, but I wonder if this is going to be one of those championships where we see a lot of ebbing and flowing. A driver scores well one week and then perhaps struggles the next. Certainly so far, that is the script that Joel Lask is running to.
Well, we sort of hope so from a neutral perspective, don't we? Let's be honest, because we want everybody winning. We want title contenders coming out the woodwork, left, right and centre. We want it to go all the way down with as many drivers in contention on the final 2 rounds as possible. And Joel Lask is clearly backing out of this one. Doesn't want the pressure from behind. Maybe he wants to pick up that slipstream. No. Here's Kyle Felders. Now we can say a championship winner here at VRRC. For a long time, we sort of, it was one of those common myths that we thought, of course he's won a championship at some point, but he never never had until recently, and now he is. He's in 3rd place and hunting down his teammate Nicky Taylor. The times are oh so close, Andy. There's less than a 10th of a second between the top 3, which is still pole position of Tom Churchhouse. We haven't really mentioned him since we saw him go to the top of the times. There's been no need because no one's got close to him. Well, not close enough to overtake him just yet. Top 4 separated by about less than 0.2 of a second. Then you'd argue there's a bit of a gap, isn't there, between 4th and 5th place. Everybody trying to fall over themselves to get that top 5. No one can really get to Andy Carroll.
Oh, now Andy Carroll, purple sector 1 though, as you say that, so Andy Carroll might be about to further tighten things up at the front. We've also just had a personal best in sector 1 for Josh Martin, so the 4th and 5th place drivers both finding improvements on board with Andy Carroll, and I would say that's nearly the perfect line through Stowe, but maybe a bit too wide over the white line. I haven't heard yet whether that invalidated the lap. We'll find out, I suppose, in a few seconds time, and then he just overruns the club chicane. That might just be enough then to have cost him any chance of a significant improvement. Let's see, across the line he goes. He's got time for one more lap. Felvers goes second, and Carroll improves his time but stays in 4th place. So Cal Felvers was the car just ahead of us then. Felvers did a purple sector 2. So those two fastest out there at the moment, and as Jack confidently predicted, we're really separating the field this week, aren't we, on a circuit that we haven't really raced at before. 56 thousandths of a second covering the front 2 rows. Pretty close.
I'd forgotten I said that, actually. It goes to show sometimes I might get lucky. I won't say that I know what I'm talking about, but I get lucky sometimes. Josh Martin came into the pits. He was an improvement in sector 1 and then pitted, so maybe he must have messed up Stowe and thought he's not going to go for another lap for whatever reason. Andy Carroll, no improvement in sector 1, but Chris Blakey has improved in sector 1, currently in 7th position. Only a couple of hundredths to go before he can even start challenging. Well, half a tenth, actually. He could start worrying Josh Martin, but I think he's just gone a little too wide, and I think he's going into the pits now as well. Stowe, he just missed the apex. Kenny Press is another driver who's improving. He's in 12th. Could he crack the top 10? Blakey goes very wide. It's not going to be a pole position time for Blakey here. He didn't go into the pits. I was mistaken. But as he goes around Club Corner, around the final, it's going to be a race to the line. Could Chris Blakey crack the top 5? No, he's into 7th place. He must have missed the apex quite badly. Kenny Press is the only driver out there who might improve.
Yeah, let's see then. Needs to find, what, quarter of a tenth or so to move up 1 position. We'll have to wait and see whether he can do it. Here he comes. He'll be among the last cars to the line. And Kenny Press got a bit of a distant tow maybe from the car ahead, but no improvement in the end. And he will stay in 12th place. So it's Tom Churchhouse who snatches pole position then for our 2nd week of racing in the minis. Therefore, it is Tom Churchhouse who we'll be speaking to on the other side of this quick break. Welcome back, everyone. Qualifying done with here at Silverstone, and an exciting qualifying session it was as well. Super tight. The top 4 drivers covered by a little over half a tenth of a second, and plenty of others who had improvements in them there, but just for whatever reason weren't quite able to put the lap together. It's going to be a fascinating opening race coming up in the next few minutes or so. Before that, though, we're going to hopefully have a word with our pole man, Tom Churchhouse, who joins us in the commentary box. I'm just going to double check that he's here with us. Tom, can you hear me? as I feared. I don't think he can. Tom may have taken this opportunity, forgetting maybe, about this being the first time that he's been dragged into the commentary box. Might have taken this opportunity to go and refresh himself before race one. Give him one more go before we move on. Tom, are you there? I don't think he is. So tell you what we'll do. We'll do some housekeeping first, and we'll run through the various things we need to run through, and then maybe he'll have made the trip back from the kitchen or wherever he finds himself. We'll have a chat with him in a moment or two, which means, Jack, that we can talk about a few of the things going on in the world of VRRC outside of our mini championship.
We can indeed, yeah. And while Tom takes a silent protest against the fact that we're not Richard John Neal, we can talk about the 90-minute races that we have had, the World Endurance Leagues. Round 1 and 2 have come and gone to Qatar and Imola. If you want to watch them back, if you're fancying some long endurance racing, long is in brackets, then we can where you can go back to the YouTube and you can watch them. But of course, we're off to Spa and Le Mans in April. After this particular championship, we have a couple of weeks off for the main championships, and that's when we do the World Endurance League. April 10th and April 24th, Spa and Le Mans, before we go into another major championship. And then it's split up by rounds 5 and 6, Sao Paulo and Kota. One more championship, and then in September and October, we go to Fuji and Bahrain. Andy, it was a hell of a series opener, wasn't it? Qatar and Imola. It was really sort of made us very excited, and now we have to wait all these weeks before we get to the next couple.
Yeah, I mean, I would thoroughly recommend those who haven't watched those first 2 rounds go back and give them a go. I think we'll probably have to before the 10th of April, just to remind ourselves everything that happened, because they were very busy races, fascinating strategic races as well, which is something that I really enjoy about endurance racing. And yeah, there's a lot to remember. So I think before Spa, we might have to go on a bit of a refresher course as well. But it will be no chore because they were fantastic races. And I'm sure that the next 2 rounds coming up after the mini JCW Cup will be equally exciting at Spa and Le Mans. I mean, a 90-minute GT race at Le Mans really can't fail to entertain, can it? So that should be well worth tuning in for. Well, maybe not tuning in for, but as it will be worth joining in with, will be our virtual truck championship, which is coming up in the near future as well. This is, if you fancy something very different to GTs, minis, just about anything really, it actually starts this Sunday. It is a sort of semi-serious championship. It's only a 3-week series. It's supposed to be a little bit of fun, really. 2 15-minute races, no full live broadcast, but there will be a live watch along, and entry is free for all VRRC Discord members. So if you've been watching from afar here on the VRRC YouTube channel and you want to try and get involved, this is your way to do so. Get yourself joined, become a member, and you can enter this 3-round series for absolutely nothing. Qualifying starts at 7 o'clock in the evening, followed by those 2 races. We're at the Nürburgring this weekend. We'll be at Zolder in early March. And then 2 weeks after that, we're racing at Le Mans, but not on the full 24-hour circuit. The Bugatti circuit will host the championship finale. Jack. Okay. I'm not sure if anyone heard Rich saying that then, or whether that was just him whispering in my ear. But we've got some real-life truck racing drivers as well who are going to be joining us for that one. So I don't know about you, Jack, but I'm tempted to give that a little go myself. If only the first round didn't clash with the Daytona 500, though, I must add.
Yeah, I was going to say, we know where your priorities lie, Andy, don't worry. It's trucks. I mean, I don't know if you commentated on them in real life. I've only ever come
Couple of
across
times.
them. Yeah, I've come across them once at Brands Hatch, and I have to say, it was splendidly entertaining. I was expecting it to be a bit dull, a bit slow, a bit hard work, to be honest. But my God, they know how to put on a show. And if nothing else, if you tune into the watch along or you have a go in these things, then I do urge you actually to go watch them in real life as well, because they are really very entertaining. And maybe you don't have to go all the way to Zolder or somewhere like that, but head down to Brands Hatch or Donington or wherever your local one is. It's very, very good indeed. And that's not all that's going on at VRRC. Of course, we've got the time attacks. Standard time attacks are in full flow with the GTs. And of course, we are round 2 for the next 5 days in the Aston Martin GT3 around Las Vegas. Round 3 starts on the 19th, and that's when we head into the BMWs, the M2 GT2 around circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Before we head and finally get into the most challenging car, one that I am absolutely terrified to even try, to be honest. But round 4, which kicks off on the 4th of March for 2 weeks, will be the Porsche 911 GT1 around Le Mans. Andy, you can't ask for a more iconic scenario or situation than that, can you? The Porsche around Le Mans is just something to experience, even in the sim, for any racing driver fan.
Well, absolutely. I mean, a series of pretty iconic cars and tracks: Monaco, Spa, Le Mans, and Las Vegas, but which actually, according to Rich Hayden, as he keeps telling us, is absolutely epic. So I would love to know what exactly it is about the upside down pig that he enjoys so much. But apparently, really good fun, and you've got 4 days to give it a go yourselves and find out exactly what it is that Rich Hayden sees in the place. Anyway, moving on, last thing to talk about before we go racing in the minis here at Silverstone, we've got our Formula One Mirror League, a new initiative for 2024. Kicks off on March the 7th. Goodness, is the new Formula One season really that close? That will be at Saudi Arabia. This is basically a 12-round series running right the way through to December the 5th, and it will run alongside select real-world Formula One races. Not each of them, but 12 of them anyway. So we go and race at a dozen of the very best Formula One circuits around the world and Las Vegas, and it is a great opportunity for you to get behind the wheel of a single-seater. We're using the Formula 3 cars, and once again, it is free entry for VRRC members and non-members, £10 per round. You can drop in and out if you want. One drop score, because it is a full championship with trophies and medals up for grabs for podium finishers, and at the end of the championship, that is, and the driver of the round each week. So interested to see how that goes, and that will be kicking off on March the 7th. We are already halfway through February. What is going on? Right, we will have mini racing coming your way here on the VRRC in just a few minutes' time. Round number 3 of the championship coming right up. So, welcome back everybody. Race 1 just around the corner here from the Silverstone International Circuit. Round 3 of the mini JCW Cup. We are less than a minute away, I believe, from lights out for our first race of the evening. Tom Churchhouse starting from pole position with Kyle Felvers alongside. Fascinating front row that, Jack, isn't it? Tom Churchhouse desperate to try and get his first victory here at the VRRC. Kyle Felvers has won a few races, but perhaps this is one of the most important races for him to try and win and get some points on the board.
Yeah, I think Nicky Taylor will be clamouring to try and get up there as well, obviously prove a point. It's a bit of a lose-lose situation for Nicky Taylor, really, isn't it? Being an actual real-life mini driver. If he wins, well, everybody just says, oh, well, you know, you're a mini driver in real life. That's not really very impressive. If he loses, everybody says, way, we beat a mini driver. So it's really very difficult for him. But hopefully, obviously, he just comes in with some strong points and has good fun. Most important thing. And Andy Carroll, as we said, in practice was very, very good, but couldn't seem to string it together for qualifying. Not that his lap times were particularly bad in qualifying, just not good enough, obviously, to replicate what he did in practice. Some other people have stepped up. So let's see if Tom Churchhouse is first and foremost needs to get off the line well.
Yes, which is an art, of course, especially in a front-wheel drive car. Let's see whether he can do it then from pole position. Can he convert it into his first ever VRC VRRC victory. We're about to find out. 25 minutes on the clock. We have got the 6 red lights illuminated, and round number 3 of the championship about to get underway. That happens now. The lights are out. It's a long drag, slightly uphill, as you can see, into the fast right-hander at Abbey Corner, and Kyle Felvers has got away really well. He's challenging for the race lead. In fact, I think he'll take the race lead into Abbey, with Nicky Taylor challenging Tom Churchhouse for second place. Felvers gets the advantage then. Churchhouse sees off Nicky Taylor for the time being, whilst Josh Martin slots into 4th place just behind them. Late on the brakes, Churchhouse too late on the brakes. Into the side of Felvers, sideways he goes. Felvers nerfed off the track. He will be spitting feathers, but Nicky Taylor will be laughing his socks off because he inherits the race lead. Felvers second, and already Jack, I think, fired up and ready to try and challenge once more down the Hanger Straight.
Elvis actually had a really nice exit, didn't he, onto the rest of the international circuit, and going down towards Stowe, he's going to get that side draft from Nicky Taylor, and Tom Churchhouse trying to get past Josh Martin, who charged up from 5th position. Kyle Felvers retakes the race lead into Stowe. Churchhouse on the inside of another driver. Josh Martin will be looking at that, praying and hoping that he's not the next Kyle Felvers, who has just got into the race lead, though. Josh Martin still going defensive down in towards the club chicane, with Andy Carroll just behind, almost nudging him through, trying to push their way through. This is proper door-to-door and, well, bumper-to-bumper action, isn't it? As the gap seems to have pulled out a little bit behind Thomas Potter, who's gone from 7th up to 6th and is leaving the rest of the field behind. But 7th place, Joel Lask, not to be sniffed at, really. A 3-place gain as Kyle Felvers and Nicky Taylor, the HFT boys, are leading the way.
Interesting as well that Josh Martin's up there in 3rd place. Lask, as you said, has gained some places to 7th, but Brad Smith, 2nd in the championship, all the way down in, well, right down the order anyway, outside the top 10, I believe, 11th place for the time being. There are 3 Smiths, Jack. I'll give you the first race to try and figure out which one is which, because it confused me for the entirety of our Donington broadcast, I can assure you. Brad Smith, number 69, running actually in 9th position as we speak. Right, leaders down the back straight then, towards Stowe Corner. All sorts of silliness going on at the back of the shop, but meanwhile the real attention has to go to the battle for 3rd place, where Tom Churchhouse is up the inside of Josh Martin, and the fight back begins.
It does indeed, yeah. Josh Martin trying to get a better exit, but it's not going to happen out of Stowe, going down towards the club chicane. Churchhouse going for that defensive line, which is exactly what Martin did just a lap ago. In fact, I don't think he even went that defensive, but he smashes the sausage curb with all his might. That might give Josh Martin an opportunity. Taylor through and trying to chase down Felvers. I think they're just going to work together, to be honest. Andy, they're probably experienced enough, mature enough to do that. Who's going off the background?
I'm not entirely sure. Drivers taking full advantage of Silverstone's very generous runoff areas on the exit of a couple of the corners, but race leaders so far keeping it clean. Interesting that you mentioned working together. We saw an element of that at Donington actually a week ago, where I think it was Joel Lask and Brad Smith, if memory serves me right, who really worked well together in race 2 to catch John Higgins. They spent about 10 minutes catching John Higgins, the race leader, and as soon as they caught him, started knocking lumps out of each other and allowed John Higgins to win the race pretty comfortably in the end. So we'll wait and see whether Tom Churchhouse and Josh Martin do that now to try and reel in the race leader. Not much working together going on here, though, I don't think. This is Andy Carroll with Thomas Potter right behind him. Potter started 7th. He's up 1 place already to 6th. I said that this would be a real test of his racecraft, and we're about to see that right now as he challenges for 5th place heading down the hill.
Yeah, is he going to go for a little lunge? He's having to think about it, isn't he? He's trying to fill the mirrors of Andy Carroll, seeing how he's going to blink, basically. As we see, oh, it's that Piercy going very, very wide through the chicane. That's not going to help him at all as he goes down towards the Lewis Hamilton straight. If I'm correct in believing, Andy, I think that the Lewis Hamilton straight is the only part of Silverstone that's actually named after a racing driver, isn't it?
Now you're asking me.
Do I know something you don't about a circuit?
I think, unless there was a Formula 1 driver called Thomas Clubb, yes, I think you might be right.
Oh, there we go. I can't believe it. I've never known anything, ladies and gentlemen, that Andy hasn't already known about a racing circuit in the UK. I'm quite honest. Yeah, but Thomas Potter does seem to be doing quite well, doesn't he? I think he's actually collecting the apexes a little bit nicer than Andy Carroll.
Yes, collecting the apexes. I'm using that one. A brilliant run out of Chapel, and he is going to challenge, I think, now for 5th place, heading towards Stowe Corner. He's got the inside line, and that should be the preferred line through the right-hander. Late on the brakes. He's later than Andy Carroll, and as long as he hooks up the apex, he should get the place. He just missed the apex, though. Look, drifts a bit wide, and Carroll will try to get the switchback. The trouble is the next corner is a left-hander, and the entry to the club chicane, so Andy switches to the left-hand side of the road instead. I don't think that quite worked. Potter manages to hang on, but that battle jack has allowed Joel Lask, the championship leader, remember Joel Lask, to get a little bit closer to them. So no longer a private battle. This is now a three-way fight for position inside the top 5.
Exactly the sort of race that Joel Lask needs, isn't it? Because he clearly doesn't have the overall pace to be going and winning, but you really want to still be picking up the most amount of points at the rounds you don't particularly like. You're only as good as your worst round, really, in motorsport, aren't you? I think it's the old cliche. Joel Lask is certainly doing a pretty good job of collecting as many points as he possibly can in this second round, keeping that drop score as long and far into the championship as humanly possible. If he can get a top 5 out of this first race, he can be pretty happy with how this one is going. And by the looks of Andy Carroll, who I think is looking a little bit wayward and a little bit erratic, I think he might have an opportunity to at least get the 6th place. Tom Potter needs to pull away before he sees the blue mini sort of firing down his exhaust.
Yeah, indeed so. Joel Lask then challenging almost as they arrive at Stowe Corner. The Phoenix Sim Racing car stays, though, in 7th place for the time being. How's Brad Smith getting on? Well, he's having a lonely race, really. He's down in 10th position at the moment, but about a second behind Chris Blakey. Here he comes, actually, towards us in the bright green and yellow car. Joel Lask, always an exciting driver to watch, and once again catching my attention. But Brad Smith is struggling. Not only is he dropping away from the cars ahead, he's under pressure here from Johnny Ogden. Johnny Ogden in the white and black car looks a bit quicker right now than Brad, and in fact he's going to challenge for that position as they head past the pits.
Yeah, going into Abbey is a little bit of a touch and go corner. You don't really want to be going side by side there because you're going to ruin the run for both drivers, but as long as you don't hit each other, it can be a really impressive and very, very exciting move. And Ogden couldn't quite get it done. Brad Smith survives for at least 1 or 2 more corners as Ogden smashes the curb on the inside. And here we go. Here's another Smith. Is this Matt Smith? No, it's Nathan Smith. Nathan Smith, who's decided to come in on the action as we see them clambering all over the curbs. I'll tell you what, Andy, I don't know which way to call it. Mainly because I don't know which Smith is which.
Yeah, tell me about it. Especially when they start battling each other, that really does get confusing, and that might happen because Nathan Smith just made a brilliant effort at a move around the outside of Johnny Ogden, who in fairness left him plenty of space. He's not really being given the same treatment by Nathan, though, who turned straight across his nose there, and Johnny, actually, I think rather too generously, decided to bail out of that one. So Nathan Smith gains a place. He's up into 11th position, and that has also now brought Zamfir round right up into his tail. Nathan Smith almost goes over, and here will come Radu up the inside of the pair of them. That was a little bit too much curve through the club chicane, and Nathan Smith is lucky to still be on his wheels.
Fairly impressive not to roll it, wasn't it? It was well, very entertaining to watch. I'm sure he'll love to see the replay of that one, right up until the point where he loses all the positions and gets hit on the backside. Nicky Taylor, about a 10th away. I don't think Carl Phelps is really worried. I wouldn't be surprised. They're always on a Google Meet, aren't they, these two, and with a few other drivers normally actually chatting about whatever's going on. But I don't know about you, but Carl Phelps looks like he's trying to break the toe there.
I think he's just defending. Well, actually, no, maybe he was letting him go. He got a poor run off the corner, I think, and it was hard to tell from that angle whether Nicky had the run or whether Kyle realises Nicky's faster and let him go. But I don't think he needed to do that. They're gapping Church House, so yeah, strange one. But anyway, Nicky Taylor grabs the lead.
He does indeed. About 0.3 of a second is the tune. He has the lead, but obviously that's pretty much nothing, as you can see in front of you. 16.5 minutes left. Obviously, it's 25-minute races these days, aren't they? And it means we've got a long time before we really even need to worry or have a conversation about how these two are going to end up, because it's probably going to be the last 5 minutes when they start actually arguing about who leads this one. Church House hasn't gone down without a fight, though. It has to be said, they are having to work together quite hard to stay ahead of him. And if they do start making mistakes, let's say Nicky Taylor makes a mistake and holds up both of them, Church House, like he just has, will probably gain about 3 or 4 tenths. And I think he gained that just through Abbey.
Yeah, well, because Nicky Taylor went really defensive into Village, so that sort of backed them both up. So if Kyle did wave him through, why is Nicky then defending from him? This will be the telltale, really, because down the Hanger Straight, Kyle is clearly close enough to either attack or push Nicky Taylor, and it looks like he's doing the latter. So I think he is now happy to sit in the wheel tracks of his longtime friend and teammate for a while. And I think those two are going to be definitely working together for the foreseeable. Felvers using that slipstream. It is one of those tracks, especially in a unaerodynamic car such as this one, where you can use the slipstream quite well. And Carl Felvers, whose car is sporting those wounds from the assault by Tom Churchhouse at the start of the race, I think he's going to use that slipstream to good effect now, save the tyres maybe in the mid part of the race. Meanwhile, Johnny Ogden and Nathan Smith continuing to battle. Ogden up the inside into the club chicane. This is all over 11th position. Nathan Smith giving the curb a wide berth, not through choice, but because Johnny Ogden's car was trying to slip up the inside, and now it still keeps coming round the outside. They're wheel to wheel down the pit straight as behind. A real hip check given to Zamfir Radu as Kenny Press came through into 13th. But this is a brilliant battle happening just outside the top 10, and still, Jack, they go door to door.
Yeah, it's very, very close indeed.
Ooh.
Although I think, as I say that, I think they've just gapped each other, as Nathan Smith will have a little bit of a bit of a buffer to Johnny Ogden now, who doesn't seem to have come out of either of the scraps that we've seen, particularly positively, has he? Joel Lask still not in... Sorry, he has overtaken Andy Carroll, actually. Joel Lask is in 7th place still, though, because Piercy has actually overtaken both of them. I was about to say Lasker hasn't made any moves forward. He has got past one driver. He's just let another driver get through. So Thomas Potter's still in 5th place. Josh Martin's still in 4th. Churchhouse still in 3rd. And obviously Felvers and Taylor are the two drivers that we've been focusing on a lot towards the front end, as they are the closest battle within the top 5. Everybody else has sort of gapped themselves quite substantially, really, Andy, which is something that's slightly surprising on such a short circuit.
Yeah, it is really, especially with the power of the slipstream, but yeah, that certainly seems to have happened. The other thing that's surprising me a bit is that Andy Carroll isn't further up, 8th position at the moment for Andy, who was the pace setter in tonight's free practice session, but maybe keeping his powder dry, waiting for race 2. At the moment, all 21 starters are still running, and still running on the lead lap as well, so it would be a full reverse grid if we were to throw the checkered flag now. We won't be throwing the checkered flag for another 13.5 minutes. We cut back now to this never-ending battle for 11th place. Johnny Ogden back up the inside of Nathan Smith, reclaims P11, but Nathan then tries to get the switch back, can't quite get the overlap through the loop. And as they head down the link road, he will settle back in behind Ogden, who snatches that rear brake. You can see there the slightly downhill, off-camber nature of that 90-degree right-hander, and that gives Nathan Smith maybe the opportunity to challenge once again. Heading down towards Stowe. Challenge he will, flashing the lights as he does so. He's got the inside line, and this could get very entertaining through the second half of the lap.
Yeah, Ogden has to yield. Nathan Smith went a little bit too hot on the brakes. I think Ogden actually saw that one coming, gave him enough room, and, well, I have to say, quite good racing respect as Ogden holds on to 11th position. Nathan Smith all kinds of sideways on the rear, but to be fair, I think Ogden was as well. I think most people outside the top 10 are drifting through that section of the track as they go down through the final corner to restart it all again. I don't think Nathan Smith's going to be able to pull up alongside him through Abbey. And going into Village, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little lunge, Andy.
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree with you there. He needs a good run through the left-hander, though, really, at Farm, which he has late on the brakes. He's got the inside line, and this is a terrific scrap, isn't it? Johnny Ogden left him plenty of space on the way in. Nathan Smith leaves him plenty of space on the way out, and as a result, they come out actually still in the same order. But it's such a wide piece of racetrack, that, isn't it? Same as the run down into Stowe, that it can be a bit deceptive. It often looks as though a driver has got the move made on the inside line, and then actually the wide sweeping entry, that's the fastest way through the corner. Which way will it go down at Stowe this time? I think they're going to stay in the wheel tracks to each other, aren't they, for now? Johnny Ogden staying in front and Nathan Smith tagging along behind him. Battle there, though. That was Andy Carroll defending, I think, from Chris Blakey for 8th position. They're both sort of stacked up behind a struggling Joel Lask. Joel Lask has dropped away from Lee Piercy now, Jack, to the tune of nearly 2 seconds, and into the clutches of Carroll and Blakey, who themselves are looking likely to go side by side towards turn 1.
Yeah, and it's going to be Blakey who's going to get on the inside as well. It's very tight, it's very fast. I think Carroll came out of that just about on top, but for how long? Going into Village then. Here comes Blakey once more. Late on the brakes. Is he too late? Is he going to be able to get the apex? He gets the apex. But look at that, Carroll with the right, really nice amount of momentum going around the outside, getting the left-hander, and Chris Blakey's going to have to do the hard work up the inside yet again, but there's so much runoff. It's running over the cameraman almost for Andy Carroll. I think Chris Blakey is going to have this one sewn up though as they go through Stowe, as long as he doesn't outbrake himself.
Well, I mean, Carroll went so wide there that he actually carried some good momentum onto the straight. But yeah, Blakey will take the position heading into Stowe Corner. And Andy Carroll, can't help but say this has been a bit of a disappointing race for Andy. We've seen him have some really great races in front-wheel drive machinery over the years, but for whatever reason tonight, things just not clicking after a really promising start to the evening's proceedings. But anyway, he's in 9th position, and he'll be hoping that he can try and regain some positions before the end. The next car behind him is Brad Smith, having also a nightmare race, really. The man who was second in both of the races at Silverstone, struggling a minute. Further back, Zamfir Radu getting back past Kenny Press. Now, I've just read in the YouTube chat, Adam Lyall, who we've seen racing with us here in the recent past, has said that Zamfir only downloaded the track 2 hours ago. Now, granted, it's not the most complex of racetracks to learn. It's not, for example, an Oulton Park or a Cadwell Park, but still, the fact that he's running here in 13th, getting stuck into the battles, pretty impressive.
It is indeed, actually. And just to touch on Adam Lyall, he should be racing today as well. He's one of the 7 drivers, unfortunately, haven't been able to get on the circuit, or 6, I think, actually, in the end, which is a bit of a shame. But it's not anything to do with that famed holiday that it shares the 14th of February, I don't think, anyway, because he's watching the stream. That would be awkward. I think it's more to do with the fact that he's broken 2 metatarsals and twisted his knee, apparently. So, yeah, that's a bit of a shame. I hope you get better soon. Maybe, obviously, dial back the hydraulics on the brake pedal. You've obviously been stamping on it too long. But hopefully, be back soon. Obviously, might have to miss the championship if the brakes are so bad. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Indeed so, and yeah, we hope to have him back on the grid in the very near future. Right then, through Abbey Corner goes Andy Carroll, and trying to stick with Chris Blakey if he can. That little tussle these two have just had there has just given Joel Lask a bit of breathing room, and as soon as actually they left him alone, he started going quite quickly again. He's now within a second actually of Lee Pearcey, so Joel Lask could yet challenge for 6th position before the end of the race. The other gap, Jack, that has been coming down slowly but surely is the gap between the leaders and Tom Churchhouse in 3rd position. He's now only about 1 point, well, it was a second a moment or two ago, adrift of Nicky Taylor, who is back behind Carl Felvers. So, okay, lots has happened here. Felvers has got the lead. Taylor seems to be struggling, and Tom Churchhouse is not out of this yet.
Yeah, maybe there was a bit of a mistake by Nicky Taylor. We saw that he was a bit susceptible of it once he got into the lead. Maybe he went a little bit too wide. Maybe he outbroke himself or something, and he had to. He was almost forced to let Felvers back through, and obviously didn't help him for the rest of the lap. That would explain maybe his loss of about half a second. But Churchhouse now smells blood in the water. It's less than a second between him and the top 2. Felvers has got a little bit of breathing room, and obviously he's got the bodyguard of Nicky Taylor. But Churchhouse, after qualifying on pole, is not done here in the very British-looking Mini around Silverstone. As we said, it does look good. It does suit here, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, it suits the Mini, really, doesn't it? You can't go wrong with a red and white Mini. It's a racing and rallying livery, indeed, that dates all the way back to the 1960s. And Tom Churchhouse is driving it very, very well indeed. And he is looking, actually, like one of the quickest drivers on the track. I think he and Felvers clearly a bit quicker than Nicky Taylor at the moment. Out of Stowe Corner they head, the top 3 all in one shot. And this, Jack, is why I enjoy these slightly longer races. I think it was a really smart move to increase the race length to 25 minutes from 20, because you do just have that extra bit of time for the race to develop. Drive means tyre management becomes a little bit more of a factor, and that is an issue around a circuit like this in front-wheel drive cars with all of these sort of long, high-speed right-handers, and drivers can just pace themselves a little bit. Tom Churchhouse obviously lost ground in the early stages. In a 20-minute race, we'd be starting the penultimate lap now, and he'd have no hope of a race victory, but here he is, hunting down the race leaders, still in with a chance. Yeah,
I think Rich Hayden's quite pleased with himself about that and how well it's worked. I think he's mostly pleased with the fact that he's managed to increase the length of the broadcast and not pay us anymore. But anyway, I'm kidding, Rich. I'm kidding. I will question it later. Anyway, it is really enjoyable to see Churchhouse, be able to have the opportunity to chase them down. Like you said, it's not just Church House, of course. We're looking at Kenny Press right now, who's tried to chase after Zamfir. Radu, again, Radu's been off the circuit. He's been back on. He's been fighting further up inside the top 10. He's been knocked back. It's very entertaining. And to be honest, when you have those sort of races, it can be frustrating, but sport is frustrating. It's also hugely enjoyable. Hopefully he comes off this feeling like he's earned whatever position he ends up in. So, and plus, of course, Nathan Smith ahead, all that battling. He's had a similar story where he's been constantly in battles, constantly having to work hard, even to just get in the positions just outside the top 10. Just goes to show how skilled the level of the drivers are inside the top 10. I think they've all been really enjoying it. And as you said, with 5 minutes to go, there's still plenty of racing left to be done out there.
Absolutely. I mean, we understandably spend a lot of time talking to drivers who finished inside the top 3 positions at the end of the race, and you don't often get much of a sense of enjoyment from them because they're up there, they're fighting for wins, they're fighting for a championship. It all becomes a bit stressful, really, and you're not really focused on enjoying yourself. You're just focused on getting the very best results that you can. Tom Churchhouse makes the mistake that I always make into that corner, actually, dips a wheel on the Well, welcome back, everybody. Apologies for the slight technical issues, which I'm afraid are well above my pay grade to try and understand. We bring you the finish of the race, where Carl Felvis wins round number 3 of the JCW Mini Cup. You missed nothing for what it's worth. Carl Felvis, Nicky Taylor, and Tom Churchhouse, who were building that story up that something might happen. In the end, perhaps for the best, nothing did. So Carl Felvis claims the victory. Nicky Taylor comes home in second place, and Tom Churchhouse will be happy, satisfied maybe is a better word, for his third place finishing position. Josh Martin, Thomas Potter, Lee Piercy, Joel Lask, Andy Carroll, Chris Blakey, and Johnny Ogden complete the top 10, because Ogden did, in the end, successfully catch and pass championship frontrunner Brad Smith, who had a nightmare race there, and he's really going to be hoping that he can make something of the reversed grid, where he'll be starting, well, only midfield, but at least 10 places or so ahead of our race 1 winner. Right, it seems a shame to leave you, having only just rejoined, but we do need to take an hour. We will do that now, and we'll be able to hear, hopefully, for all 3 of our podium finishers in just a few moments' time. Welcome back, everyone, to the VRRC. Race 1 is in the books here from Silverstone in the Mini JCW Cup. And we have our top 3 drivers here. We're going to continue the new VRRC tradition that was begun by Richard John Neal a week ago. And we're going to start our post-race interviews with our 3rd place finisher, which means that actually we do now finally get an opportunity, we hope, to catch up with Tom Churchhouse, who qualified on pole, ended up finishing in 3rd. Tom, a solid start to the night, an eventful start to the night, actually, because those opening few corners didn't quite go to plan, did they?
Yeah, I remember the turn right and the turn left, but the break, I think I was about 10 meters too late.
I mean, just ask Jack. I mean, he'll tell you that, you know, the turning's one thing. Braking, doing that at the right point, not that easy to do, really. So we can forgive you.
What have I done here?
Sorry, I was hoping you weren't concentrating. Yes, Tom, solid start to the night, though. Good to see you up on the podium. Good to see you on the pace as well. I mean, we've been surprised, not necessarily the right word, but we've been happy to see you looking quicker and quicker with every race that you do. How much practice is going on behind the scenes to make sure that's been the case?
Probably not enough, to be honest. I did maybe half hour today, just before the race. So maybe I need to do a bit more than that. But yeah, the pace was fine. Just hit a bit of grass, which sent me clockwise. So I dropped off a bit.
Yes, we did say that. A very easy mistake to make at that corner, though, in your defence. And I'm not going to say ask Jack, because it's a mistake that I make all the time at that corner as well. So, again, that can be forgiven. Race 2 coming up, though. Reverse grid. Always a lot of action here. We've seen that you've got the raw pace out there. How confident are you that you can sort of get your elbows out now and use some racecraft to move forward?
I'll be honest, judging from turn 3, lap 1, I can definitely get my elbows out, but I'll try and do it a bit nicer this time.
Hey, you're not here to make friends, Tom. You're here to try and win races. So we're watching for some aggression in the early stages. Tom, congratulations on the podium, though. Hopefully, we'll get to speak to you again a bit later on.
Thanks very much.
So, Tom Churchhouse, 3rd place finish. Jack Oliphant now has the opportunity to catch up with Nicky Taylor, who grabs his 2nd podium of the season.
Yes, and well, Nicky Taylor, big congratulations on second place. It looked like it was an opportunity for a first place at one point. What happened? Because the cameras were away from us when you slipped back down to second.
Yeah, me and Kyle just were working together throughout pretty much most of the race. Like we obviously Kyle got the little nudge from Tom at the start, which then put him wide, and then he managed to then come on in front of come on like alongside me going into the right hander before the massive straight. So yeah, we were side by side for a bit of that, and then once we calmed down with that, we literally just pushed away together. So I kind of had a bit of pace at the start, so Kyle thought it just let me through a little bit, so I went through, and then I screwed up my laps, so I let Kyle back through because it was the decent thing to do, and because I was screwing myself over. So yeah, we were just working together, and it seemed to work, and we seemed to fill a gap.
Did you have a look in your rear view mirrors when the gap came down to under a second when Tom Churchhouse was hunting?
I did a bit, but I was just kind of putting it down to weight at the end of the day. I was like, I know Tom's only on 5 kg, I'm on 30, so the weight does, I think, play into the tyres a bit, and also I forgot to lower my pressure on my front left, so we'll definitely be doing that because my front left was cooked with about 10 minutes left. But yeah, I saw it was gaining, but I was just trying to focusing on Kyle and seeing what Kyle was doing and just follow with him.
Before we hear Carl's perspective, when it came to the last 5 minutes, was that working together agreement out of the window? Was there an opportunity where you two were ever going to fight each other, or was that not really on the cards?
I think if I had been a bit closer, like if I had been within striking distance, I think through the last 2 minutes we would have just gone fair game because I think that's how we'd operate. But yeah, I wasn't going to take him out. No stretch of the imagination. I wasn't gonna make any stupid moves on him. So yeah, I'm happy with P2, and me and him work well together. So I think we can go for 1-2 again in a reverse grid. Will be brilliant.
Well, Nicky, it's a big congratulations on second place. Before you go, quick quiz question. How many races has Andy McEwen ever won around Silverstone?
Cool.
Quite a few, I'll have you know.
In real life, nil. That's what I thought. Back to you, Andy.
Oh, it is game on. Right then. Well done, Nicky. Congratulations on the podium. Right then, we're going to move very swiftly on to our race winner, Kyle Felbers. Kyle, welcome back. Good to have you back on the podium. Didn't get the chance to speak to you last week. It didn't feel like a VRRC broadcast without getting to interview you at least once. Believe you were a little bit under the weather. So first of all, hope you're feeling better. And if you weren't, I'm sure that race winner's perked you right up.
Yeah, definitely. I'm feeling a bit better this week. I think last week illness struck and yeah, just couldn't race anymore. So to come this week and put a win on race one is great.
And much needed as well from a championship perspective. I'm intrigued about a couple of moments in that race, really. You had the lead early on, you had it briefly into the first quarter. Then, of course, you had the moment with Tom and you lost it. Then you got the lead back again. It looked at one point almost like you let Nicky back through, only to then repass him later on. Was there a bit of sort of cooperation going on there between the two of you, or were you racing for the lead pretty much throughout?
Yeah, definitely. I think Nicky was behind me near the start of the race, and you never know what pace a driver has when they're behind you. So with him being my teammate, I sort of moved over, let him go, and sort of released him, let him see what pace he had, and then eventually I was still on the back of him. So I think Nicky just pulled over again, let me back past, and that's how it stayed for the rest of the race.
Yeah, and of course, able to grab the victory. Really important after missing out on the points a week ago. Are you still sort of seeing yourself as a potential championship contender, though? You've obviously got the pace to be winning races, and the drop scores are there for a reason, aren't they? If you can keep the consistency that we saw in the Porsche Championship going, no reason really why you couldn't still be a contender, right?
Yeah, possibly. I think, it's front-wheel drive car. I don't really like them, so...
No. We're not having it.
I'm not having it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a difficult one. I'm definitely struggling with the cars. It's not my favourite thing in the world, but if I put in some effort and actually do a bit more practice than I did, for tonight, might be able to get some consistency and might be able to get some good points, so...
Yes, absolutely. Well, we'll leave you to it, Carl. Great to have a chance to chat with you again, and we'll hopefully get to speak to you again later on. Best of luck for race 2, then.
Cheers, Andy.
Right then. So Carl Felvers, I mean, he'll have to stop with that line at some point when he wins a front wheel drive championship. I think that's the time officially that we'll have to move him on from that. And who knows, that could still be the case in about 6 or 7 weeks' time. Right then, that is our first race done with. And Jack, it was a pretty exciting one, really, wasn't it? That and Kyle Felvers. What do you think then? I'm going to pose you the same question I just asked him. Do you think that he is potentially still going to be our champion in a month and a half's time?
That is very difficult, isn't it? Having been only 3 races into the championship, it's 16 as well. It's going to be difficult, that one. He has it in him. I do believe Kyle has it in him to go back to back. Although he obviously says the line over and over again, and he has done for the last 3 years, he's raced with us, or however long it's been. I personally think he could win this one. The likes of Joel Lask, hard to beat. I mean, he is quick. He doesn't look it particularly here at Silverstone, but over the course of the season, he's always there and thereabouts. And remember, if it comes down to it on the final couple of races, we know how Joel Lask and Carl Felvers like to race each other. So that one could be a little bit of a talking point as well. I would say that Brad Smith is slightly underwhelming here at Silverstone, but again, quite a quick driver. If he puts the time and the practice in for the next couple of rounds, I think that's the key issue, is who's got the time to put the practice in when we go to Mallory Park and we go to Cadwell and we go to all these places that we don't normally go to. I mean, even Silverstone International, a track that isn't overly difficult to pick up, people are struggling to really bridge that gap. That's going to be even bigger when it comes to Mallory and the rest of them.
Yes, no, it'll be quite difficult to do practice for Mallory Park, and fairly pointless, I think, because I don't see it on the calendar.
Oh, is it not?
I kind of wish it was now, though. I think that's a great idea. I'm going to lobby for that for a future championship. Castle Combe, perhaps, I think is what you were thinking of, which is where we're heading in a week's time, and that's going to be
it's Anglesey, actually.
famously close to Mallory Park.
I knew it was some rogue tracks that we hadn't been to before. Yeah, all right, leave me out. I'm tired.
That's quite all right. I do want to very quickly, before we dive into this race, pose another question to you. Have you noticed quite a lot of drivers these days, they keep putting this subtle little brag in about how, yeah, I've not really done much practice, to be honest. I downloaded the track a couple of hours ago, just turned up, finished on the podium. However, I always found in my fairly brief stint as a semi-serious sim racer that practice didn't really make a lot of difference for me. Were you a driver who needs sort of plenty of practice time before jumping into a sim race?
Sim racing hard because I never really did it that properly. I tried to do the sim racing during lockdown. I embarrassed myself massively on a big stream that had a couple of thousand people watching. I decided not to do it again and decided to commentate instead. So I have to say, even in real life stuff as well, practicing has never been something I've loved doing. I either get the track or I don't within 10 minutes, to be honest. So when you whittling down the last couple of attempts, maybe, but ultimately it's not something I've ever found.
When you're searching for 5 seconds a lap like we are, I sort of agree with you, really. Right then, let's see what happens in round number 4 of the championship. The red lights are on. We've got John Jones on the front of the grid, and alongside him, Stuart Henderson, who will win the drag race into turn 1. Let's find out then. Away we go. And John Jones in the red and black car on the outside line, I think is going to keep his nose in front, pulls over to the middle of the road to cover, and Henderson sweeps to the outside line, side by side then just behind them, as we hold our breath, not necessarily through the first 2 corners, but into this big braking zone at Village. Let's hope they all get through. They're going 4 wide at the back of the pack. That involves Nicky Taylor, Carl Felvers, Josh Martin. That's got an absolute pile of Britain all over it. Do they all make it through the tight right-handed? You know what? I think they might have done. There was a bit of elbowing going on up front, though, and that has allowed John Jones to make a little bit of a break. Henderson second, third position then for Matt Smith. And would you believe it, Jack? I don't. They've all, I think, made it through the first half of the lap, more or less in one piece.
Yeah, well, that goes to show that sim racing isn't always realistic, is it? Because we never have got all 21 minutes through that bit of the track. But oh, well, we have, and we should enjoy it all at last. Because it may well be a short-lived enjoyment. As we go through Stone up, down towards the chicane, it looks like there's a few people going a little bit wide, but again, actually not too bad. And I have to say, the front 2 have got a nice little gap to Matt Smith. John Jones, we know, doesn't go down without a fight, and I think Stuart Henderson is about to learn that, because as he looks left, he looks right, he's trying to see if he can make John Jones blink. John Jones doesn't blink. He's he's constantly on the full offensive or full defensive. He will not move out of your way.
Doesn't blink, and I'm not convinced he ever uses the mirrors. I think he just gets the blinkers on, doesn't he? Just stares straight in front of him. Doesn't matter what's going on behind him. John Jones just keeps on driving, and I think that's a great way to be, really. Although, as I say that, he takes a very defensive line into Village. Gotta say, though, and I know I'm going to regret this probably within the next 30 seconds, brilliant driving standards on the opening lap, though. That first sequence of corners, so difficult to get through in one piece when you're all congested like that, and they did manage to do so. So fair play where it is due. Down the hanger straight they go. John Jones weaving around to try and break the toe and keep Stuart Henderson at bay. What progress of the front runners from race one? Well, we've got Carl Felbers up into 10th position. We've got Tom Churchhouse 15th. Nicky Taylor only 17th. So perhaps because there wasn't too much drama going on further back, we haven't seen quite the level of progress that we would normally be used to, really, from our race one podium finishers.
You're absolutely right. I am going to make a petition to Rich right now, though, in the fact that with Nathan Smith and Matt Smith both racing in white, one being 11 and one being 22, there has to be some bigger difference we can pull out of here. Or at least changing the timing tower so we can see N Smith and M Smith. Even that actually would be difficult, wouldn't it? Anyway, Joel Lask has got his way up to 5th place. That's probably the biggest improvement from one of our protagonists, shall we say, for the championship. Obviously, he was championship leader going into this evening. May not well be now, obviously, with the first race having been out of the way. But if he can pick up good points around those top 5 positions, he'd be doing well. But it's whether or not he's fast enough to actually catch up to the likes of Henderson and Jones and get into the lead ahead of Smith and Smith, who we both know are very, very hardy racers. In fact, that top 4, apart from Henderson, who's a bit of an unknown source, John Jones, Nathan Smith and Matt Smith, we've already seen even today that they're difficult to get past and they don't go down without a fight. So Joel Lask, unless he's massively quicker, is going to find it difficult.
Yeah, no, he certainly is, and we're seeing that really all round, aren't we? Nicky Taylor only gaining 2 places in the last lap or so, and well, Tom Churchhouse actually, as I say, that gets past Josh Martin. That's quite the scalp to claim, isn't it? Tom Churchhouse up into 11th place. Felbus had just gone past Kenny Press, but no one can get past John Jones at the moment. Henderson actually dropping away a little bit, and they're both gapping the pair of Smiths behind. So looking good so far for John Jones. We did have a drama at the Club Chicane a lap ago for Alec Iyengar. He went off the road into the gravel, so he's dropped down to the tail end of the field. There he is, the purplish car running in 21st and last place. Whilst further up the road, we've got Joel Lask battling away, I think, with Matt Smith, that was, for 4th position. He was briefly ahead of Matt, then Matt got him back, and now there's contact, and Lask is sideways. They're both sideways, right in front of Kyle Felbus, who says, thank you very much, guys, I will have 4th place, and didn't really have to work for it one little bit. Lask survives in 5th, but that was drama, and Joel Lask will not be happy because now he's back behind Kyle Felbus, and perhaps a good opportunity to get some points back has gone begging. He wants to try and do something about it, though. Pulls to the outside line into Stowe. This could get exciting, Jack.
Yeah, I'm having flashbacks to Oulton Park in the Porsches already, to be honest with you. It's going to get a little bit tasty, and I think Joel Lask is going to be fairly annoyed, as you say. Hopefully the red mist hasn't descended on him. Kenny Press could be the answer to Carl Felbus's headache, though, in terms of Joel Lask, because Kenny Press is right there, and as long as these two start fighting, he's not going to be left without wanting, is Kenny. And 7th place is still Matt Smith. I'm going to put that down. It might be letting him off the hook here a little bit, Andy, if you're probably thinking, but I'm going to put that down to maybe a bit of an experience, but really he should not have been rejoining at that part of the circuit, should he? He should have cut the corner off, rejoined later and given it the place.
Yeah, I agree with you. You put in a bit of a box there, really, though, because there's that big curb on the left hand of the inside of the loop. So you sort of think, right, well, I've got to get back on the track before that. But yeah, it is always an option just to cut the corner. Yes, okay, you'll get a track cut, but it's not going to be an improved lap time, you would imagine, because you're going well off the road. So that probably was the more sensible thing to do. But anyway, no major harm, I suppose. Joel Lask still running inside the top 5. Came out of that better than Smith did, that is for sure. Now, speaking of Smith, this is Nathan Smith. He's still hounding John Jones. In fact, he's got past Henderson, hasn't he? So he is now has caught John Jones and is looking to try and get the race lead away. He's going to look to the inside, look back to the outside again, heading down through the Vale, but no way through for the time being. This is proper mini racing though, less than a mini's length between them, and it is John Jones still just about hanging on. Henderson third. I'll be interested though to see whether Carl Felvers can catch this group quickly. At the moment, not really. He's inching towards them. That lap was a 1:13.0, so okay, just over a second quicker than John Jones, but the battling going on up in front is only going to shrink that gap faster.
It is indeed, and Nathan Smith is looking like he's interested in trying to go for a cutback manoeuvre on John Jones, and he might just have it. He launches himself over the sausage curb, which I think Jones had just about managed to hold on. He didn't quite hit the apex, but we've spoken before a little bit there, Andy. You don't always need to hit the apex through Village, do you? Because you can just carry that momentum, and it's such a sharp, quick turn, sort of straight down towards the left-hand side. If you keep some momentum, it doesn't actually matter that much, does it? It's easy to defend, and that's exactly what John Jones is doing, almost just driving in the middle of the circuit right now. So Smith is finding it hard. Henderson is just dropped off a touch as well. But I have to say, I'm still impressed with the front three, because Kyle Felvers has not caught up and has not made easy work of this, and they've been going for about 7 minutes now, these drivers. Here is Brad Smith, and a final Smith in our triage of drivers, against Johnny Oulton and Tom Churchhouse. So Brad Smith, obviously a championship contender, Johnny Oulton new to the championship, Churchhouse new and also quite quick here today with Josh Martin. This is a tasty treat for the eyes.
Oh, bit of contact on the exit there between Churchhouse and Oulton, but they both survive. I have to say, fair play to Brad Smith. He's clearly not got the ultimate pace tonight, but he's still fighting. He was 10th the last time I checked. He's now briefly at least up into 7th place. Back to the leaders though. This is Carl Felvers. He's already got past Stuart Henderson. Now he goes around the outside of Nathan Smith. That's brave. Nathan just about leaves him the space. Felvers has the outside line now, heading down into the link. He's going to turn across the nose of Nathan Smith, who did not have to get out of the way there in fairness. There was a bit of a touch, and they will still be side by side coming off the corner. Joel Lask hunting around behind as well, is trying to join the party too. So door handle to door handle down the hanger straight. Nathan Smith on the left, Carl Felvers on the right, and Carl is going to be faced with the rather an enviable task of trying to go right round the outside at Stowe Corner. Is that going to pay off? No, it's not. Nathan Smith, as he's well entitled to do so, is getting his elbows out. He's making that a very wide mini JCW, and actually this is backing Felvers back into Henderson and Lask behind him.
Yeah, I have to say, was that a bit of a cut? My street went a little bit laggy there, but Nathan Smith still in 4th place. It did sound like a bit of a cut. We had Sam Henderson, Joel Lask all lining up to try and overtake Carl Felvers, and ultimately Nathan Smith. Smith goes defensive on Abbey. Here goes Felvers yet again, trying to go for the outside. No, is he going to go for that cutback? He just wants some clean momentum. That's all he needs to get up the inside of Village. He's going to have an opportunity here. No, he's too far back, Andy. That's a massive lunge if he goes for it, which he's just about thinking about as Nathan Smith goes wide. Momentum may well be carried. There's still door bagging. There's side on side. But this time, Felvers is going to have the inside. They go onto the back straight.
And he boxes Nathan Smith out really cleverly, gets rid of the opportunity for a switchback manoeuvre. So Felvers into 2nd position. And now we watch for Joel Lask to try and do the same. In fact, Lask still hasn't got past Henderson. They are wheel to wheel, heading down the hanger straight. And Nathan Smith is coming back at Felvers. He's had the slipstream. He's got the inside line. And I'm sure he's going to try and outbreak our reigning VRRC champion. It doesn't quite work. And so Felvers stays in 2nd place. Terrific battling this though, as they drop down the hill. Henderson arrives from the right hand side of shot from a long way off the road, and that has allowed Joel Lask to come through. Kenny Press is catching them now, and let's not forget this is all going on 1.1 second behind our race leader John Jones, who has now led the first 10 minutes of this race. Granted, Felvers, now he's cleared Nathan Smith, should be able to bridge that gap, but this has been another fine drive from John Jones.
I have to say, I'm glad you didn't ask me to predict what's going to happen in this race like you sometimes do, Andy, because I would have got it horrendously wrong. Like, so badly wrong it would have been untrue. But I'm enjoying every bit of this, because it's been really good driving by John Jones. Hasn't been undeserved this race lead or anything. Felvers has had to work really hard to get back through. Obviously took a little bit of advantage of Lask versus Smith, but that's okay. That's part of racing through the pack. Then he's had to fight hard against Nathan Smith, of course. And I have to say, there was a little bit of contact from both drivers initiating it. Nothing unfair, in my opinion. With Felvers going around the outside onto the back straight, he was always knew there was going to be a bit of a touch. That's just how it is in racing. In front-wheel drive, you can get away with it just by planting the power, so that was all fair. And then he went for the opposite sort of move to try and get into second place, and it worked out for him. So really good, clean, high-level racing, in my opinion. And John Jones may well have more of a headache on his hands now for the next 13 minutes, but at the moment, he has driven very, very well.
Of all the people, Kyle Felvers wishes he wasn't chasing down for the race lead. John Jones is probably quite high up that list, really, along with maybe Joel Lask, but he's got a car between himself and Joel, and he has now caught John Jones, who I'm sure is not going to be waving the white flag anytime soon. Goes very defensive into village. He's probably outbraked himself, though. Yes, he has. Actually, after all that build-up, it's made very easy for Kyle Felvers, who does move into the lead of the race. Now, can Nathan Smith follow him through? He's looking to the inside, does more than look. Absolutely lunges up the inside of John Jones. Just about makes the corner, and just like that, 2 places lost. But the overhead view showing brilliantly how the momentum worked there through the corner. Nathan Smith charged the entry, got the move made, but was much slower off the corner than John Jones, who comes back at him now on the outside line towards Stowe, and they are going to, I think, probably stay in the same positions, but that just forced a defensive move out of Nathan, and that bottles them all together, brings Joel Lask back into play, as Nathan Smith once more has to watch the mirrors, covers the middle ground. Here comes Lask, very late on the brakes, finds a gap. Brilliant move that from Joel Lask. He's into third and immediately sets about trying to take second from Nathan Smith.
Yeah, he was Lask of the late races, wasn't he there? It was very impressive indeed. You're welcome. He's now, as you said, right on the back bumper of Nathan Smith. We've seen how hard it is to pass him from Carl Felvers' point of view, from John Jones' point of view. Now Lask is the next and latest member to try and knock him off at least one more step off the podium and knock him down into third place. John Jones, I thought was going to have a little lunge in the rear view mirrors then, but he didn't quite have the momentum, probably thought better of it as Lask goes through onto the back straight. Now, can he hook up the apex? Well, Nathan Smith does actually, so it's not going to be an opportunity to get him straight off the corner, but if he can get the momentum down into Stowe, we could see a change for second place. A little bit of leaping about here, maybe a connection issue for Joel Lask, because the slipstream not quite working as strongly as we once thought, Andy.
No, it's not really, is it? More's the pity as far as Joel is concerned, but if he could just get this second place, get out of this battle, I think he'll be very happy with that. That car is a heavy car, remember, this week, and if he can still manage to get himself on the podium in race 2, he's going to be pretty satisfied, I think, with that, really. Lots of curb taken there by Nathan Smith, not for the first time tonight, has to be said. Right, Nicky Taylor, remember him? He was on the podium in race 1, but a little bit like Donington Park, he's struggling to make the progress in race 2 that the likes of Carl Felvers has been able to. And in fact, even Tom Churchhouse, who's up inside the top 5 now. But Nicky Taylor wanting to try and get past Zamfir Radu, who, bear in mind, hadn't turned a wheel around this track until a couple of hours ago. Well, he's fending off one of our expected championship front runners. They almost trade a bit of virtual paint coming off the corner. And here comes Thomas Potter as well. A 3-way fight. Potter almost thinks about going up the inside of the pair of them. Settles in the end for just challenging Zamfir Radu, which he does. Excellent clean racing from the 3 of them. And Nicky Taylor up into 9th place.
Yeah, it was a good move, wasn't it? And Potter is sliding his way on through to try and take advantages. It's rather good instinctive racing as everybody seems to be following themselves off. That was Josh Martin who also followed them off the road in trying to use as much track as humanly possible. I'm not sure if it entirely was quicker. Here comes Potter though on Nicky Taylor. Nicky Taylor, after getting past Radu, is now going to see himself fall back down to 10th position. If only for a moment though, as Potter goes a little bit too late, and unfortunately he's had to settle back down. He's still inside the top 10. Taylor showing experience. Potter late on the brakes, going into the club chicane. He gets it stopped, and I think he's going to have the right-hand side as well. That's an unbelievable move. If he can hold on to it through the final corner, he's going to.
That was outrageous. Fantastic stuff from Thomas Potter. He's just put the moves on Nicky Taylor, and that was one of the best moves of the night. So Thomas Potter up into 9th position. Then Taylor won't like that, and he's going to try and get the place back, I am sure. This is, with the greatest of respect, not the group of drivers that Nicky Taylor wanted to be racing with in this one. And the frustration perhaps starting to no, what a lunge from Nicky. I think Potter was perhaps a bit too early on the brakes. Taylor almost forced into the move, and he manages to go through, but then has to defend, dropping down into the link, and Thomas Potter tries to tough it out around the outside line. That was never likely to work, and so in the end he settles back in line again. But Thomas Potter, 12 years of age, and a real star of the future based on what we're seeing here. I know he's only in 10th position, but he had a really strong run in race 1, and he certainly does not lack in commitment. Again, peaks to the inside up at Stowe Corner. What I like, Jack, is he's not going for silly moves. He's making measured moves. If he thinks the move is on, he'll go for it. But times like then into Stowe Corner, he looked to the inside, applied the pressure, but didn't do anything silly. That is seriously impressive.
Yeah, they're not silly, but he is going for every move, isn't he? If he looks at it and he thinks that's on, he will go for it regardless of what the situation is. If it's, you know, not obviously, as we said, not silly though, which is very, very impressive. He's being very efficient, very determined right now, which is a sign of a driver who's got good race instincts, and obviously he's got some pace to back it up, which will only get better and better. Here is Joel Lask. He's got past Nathan Smith. He's into second place. He's got a big old gap though to find. He has to work between himself and Carl Felvis before Carl Felvis has to worry about anything. I think Lask versus Smith is probably going to be the podium. John Jones still in 4th place, but now is Churchhouse breathing down his neck. Could we see Churchhouse with a double podium before the evening's end? We've got 8 minutes to see it, and if Lask versus Jones keeps on going, no, it's Lask versus Smith, isn't it? My apologies. Keeps on going, then it'll end up holding each other up. You never know. Churchhouse could be in with a sniff.
Well, yeah, because having got past Nathan Smith, Joel Lask can't get away, can he? I'm really impressed with Nathan Smith tonight. Had a solid first race, and certainly a spectacular first race. But Joel Lask, who is heavy at the moment, 45 kilos on board his car, is struggling to get away from him here. Yes, the ballast is a factor, but that's the point of the ballast, isn't it? It's supposed to level the playing field, and it certainly is. It's giving drivers like Joel Lask, like Nathan Smith, like even John Jones, really, an opportunity to shine, give them some track position, and they're more than capable of mixing it at the front. Right, here comes the battle I really want to watch. This is the one for 9th place. Nicky Taylor versus Thomas Potter. Taylor got back through, as we saw a lap or so ago, but he cannot shake the youngster, and Thomas Potter, in fact, again, hunting around on the inside line. Taylor didn't dare turn in, and so they're side by side coming off the corner.
Yeah, he sent some real speed through there, almost drifting the back end, but that helped him get the rotation, and he's up the inside of Nicky Taylor. This could be a drag race down to Stowe. Tell you what, this is absolutely stunning, isn't it? I'm enjoying this thoroughly, and there's even a battle behind that we haven't really been able to keep an eye out on. Piercy, Ogden, Carroll as well. As we go down towards Stowe, they're still swerving in the background. Not entirely sure who it is, because we're focusing on 38 versus 17. Potter and Taylor. Taylor obviously previously a race winner here at VRRC, and I think he's just about got the outside line done and dusted.
Yeah, but now Josh Martin's starting to buy into all of this as well. This was already an exciting battle. It's about to hit fever pitch with 6.5 minutes to go. Whoa! Potter right up on 2 wheels over the sausage curb. That slows him down. It allows Josh Martin up the inside line, and Josh should be afforded the room on the apex. Well, he makes the room on the apex, and will, I think, gain the place. Bit of a shame that for Potter. You don't want to be riding that sausage curb that hard through the club chicane. It does lose you forward momentum, so he loses a place for now, but I somehow don't think that's the last time we'll be mentioning his name in this race. 6 more minutes, and he's already trying to find a way back ahead of the green number 89 machine. In fact, he's got his nose back ahead on the outside line, but Josh Martin comes off the corner just about in front. Fascinating stuff, this brilliant battle. It's refreshing, isn't it, Jack, to have all of these new names on the grid, because we don't really know how they're going to race each other. We already know how the likes of a Joel Lask or a Nicky Taylor or a Carl Felvis will handle a certain situation, but now we're learning all of these new drivers' traits and who's going to send it, who's going to be a bit more circumspect, who's good at defending, who's good at overtaking, who is good at saving big slides. Well, not actually Thomas Potter in the end, because he ends up on the grass on the inside line. I think he got into the back of Josh Martin slightly. That is an awful shame, because they were so closely packed behind him that that's cost him about 5 places.
Yeah, well, hopefully, obviously he'll be annoyed at that, but he'll have a big grin on his face when he actually looks back at some of the moves and looks back at the broadcast as well, because he has been tremendously exciting. Yes, okay, that was a pretty big mistake. Luckily, Josh Martin didn't come off any worse from it, because obviously otherwise there would have been penalties potentially to be looked at and everything. Is Joel Smith looking nibbling, not even quite actually having the space to crowbar a gap up the inside of Joel Lask there, and he's just about got away with it. What I love about Thomas Potter, though, Andy, is I'm not sure about you, but especially that fight with Nicky Taylor, it was like watching Nicky Taylor versus Nicky Taylor, but you know, Nicky Taylor from about 2 years ago when he started with us, when every move was on. He decided that if there's a space, okay, I'll fill it. Why not? What's the worst that can happen? And that's what I really enjoyed there. As you said, we didn't see anything big or anything bad come out of it, but it was a driver who was very keen to move forward and had no fear whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a very good point, actually. A really good point. That is exactly what that reminded me of, too. Or a Kyle Felvers. Kyle, of course, started racing with us when he wasn't much older than Thomas Potter is now. He's no longer the young kid of the grid, Kyle Felvers. I mean, he is compared to us, but he is no longer the youngest driver out there. 13 years old he was when he started. Practically a pensioner compared to Thomas Potter, who we are very, very happy to have on board. Zamfir Radu's been good entertainment value tonight as well, hasn't he? It's been a very entertaining night in general, really. The Silverstone International Circuit bringing out the best in our mini drivers, and Joel Lask is hoping that it will bring a second place finish for him in this second race of the evening. He's still fending off Nathan Smith and actually has built a small cushion, but in mini racing terms, a pretty handy lead as they head down the Hanger Straight with 3¼ minutes to go.
Yeah, I think he'll be pretty happy with this one. As in the background there is that John Jones who's clinging on to a 5th place. It is only clinging on, isn't it, though, as they go down towards Stowe against Brad Smith, a driver that has actually wiggled his way up the order quite successfully, actually, after having not really been in the talking or in the picture much at all in race 1. Just seemed to have found his way in race 2, found his feet a little bit, able to move through, and is actually, if he does get that 5th position, not a bad end to the night for his championship.
No, not at all, and he's just managed to move ahead of John Jones into that 5th place. So yeah, Brad Smith, sorry, second in the championship, 2 second-place finishes a week ago, and not quite going to reach those highs here at Silverstone, but you know, it's not a bad points haul. He'll lose some ballast now for Castle Combe, and I think that is going to be more than enough to keep a bit of a smile anyway on his face. Oh, Joel Lask nearly had the smile wiped off his face there as Nathan Smith came charging in from behind, but stays where he is for the time being. Out onto the Hanger Straight we go, and Joel Lask in 2nd place. Now, hang on. Carl Felvers is showing as non-finished, and he's not on track. Has Carl Felvers disconnected from the race lead? I think, Jack, that this is now the battle for the race lead, and I think Nathan Smith knows it. He's up the inside line, and he sees a chance to steal a race win.
Yeah, Carl Felvers, he's actually just dropped down the order. He's in 18th place or something like that. It's Joel Lask right off the circuit. I don't know what's happened to them, but it's not a timing glitch, ladies and gentlemen. This is the battle for the race lead. There is Kyle Felvers. He's in the pits. I don't know whether he accidentally hit the wrong button, but we'll focus on this one for the next 90 seconds. Well, it looks like Nathan Smith, Joel Lask, and Tom Clubhouse. Church House even. I'm getting it all wrong as they go through Club. I'm sorry. It's a race lead.
What a battle. What a battle this is. 2 laps to go. 3 drivers under a handkerchief going through Abbey Corner, and Nathan Smith's got the lead back. There is Felvers back on the road in 19th place. What on earth is happening? I've no idea. I'm sure he'll jump on the YouTube chat later on to explain to us, but Carl Felvers is now going to score hardly any points from this second race. The nice, and in fact, Joel Lask in danger of suffering the same fate because he has contact from Tom Churchhouse. This could be exactly what Nathan Smith needs to grab what I believe would be his first victory with us here at the VRRC. If those two start scrapping behind, he might just be able to do this.
Yeah, Churchhouse with 45 seconds wants a higher podium position than the one he's currently operating in. Joel Lask going very defensive. Churchhouse is going to have to go around the long way around Stowe, locking up on the rear right. Nothing wrong there. Nothing wrong with the move, Andy. He's gone and done it.
Oh. Wow, what a brilliant bit of racecraft that was, and Tom Churchhouse through into 2nd place. Now, can Churchhouse get the victory? He will feel a little bit robbed, actually. Remember, he was on pole position for race 1, fastest in qualifying, had that little to-do with Carl Felvers on the opening lap, and then that really was his shot at a race win gone. But here he is with 1 lap to go. 3/4 of a second he's got to try and gain here on Nathan Smith. Of course, on that lap he was 4/10 slower, but that lap included that rather spectacular overtake against Joel Lask. He's already taken a couple of tenths out of him in the first corner alone. He's going to catch him, Jack, I think, but will he find a way through?
I'll tell you what, they're all going to catch Kyle Felvers, who seems to be just ahead of him on the track map. Anyway, I'm not entirely sure. Felvers was disappeared, then he's back. His connection's all over the place.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll worry about him another time. Hopefully, we'll have a chat to him potentially. He is right at the back of the field, though, and I think he's just got into the pits as a DNF. So his connection is absolutely gone. Maybe that's the cause of the problem. Anyway, Church House, half a second to Nathan Smith. Nathan Smith, who has fought so hard to be in the position he is in. He probably only thought that maybe a podium was on the cards, let alone a race win. It's going to be absolutely stunning. He's going to love it in the commentary box. I can't wait to have a chat with him as long as he doesn't chuck it off in the next 3 corners, Andy. This is going to be one that he'll remember for a while.
Oh, well, one will remember for a while. What a race this has been. Nathan Smith off the final corner. He is going to do it. Out of club he goes. Nathan Smith, a winner at the VRRC from Tom Churchhouse in second and Joel Lask in third. I think Lask will still be happy with that, but my word, he could so easily have won that one, couldn't he? Then it is Brad Smith fourth. That was an under-the-radar fourth position for Brad Smith, but valuable championship points scored. John Jones in the top 5 ahead of Kenny Press, Nicky Taylor, Josh Martin, Andy Carroll and Lee Piercy. I'll tell you what, Jack, what you said earlier on is absolutely correct. You never, in a month of Sundays, would have predicted that top 10, would you, at the beginning of what was a frenetic 4th round of the championship. It looks as though Carl Felvers, unfortunately, has succumbed to some connection issues, and that is, unfortunately, the end of his... Well, maybe not completely the end of his championship hopes, but it certainly is not going to help his championship standings. A 3rd non-score from the first 4 races of the season. But let that not detract from Nathan Smith, who put up a fighting drive regardless, and thoroughly deserves that race victory that he has just claimed. We will have all of the breakdown from our second race of the night, and there'll be plenty to unpack in our post-race interviews. They're coming up in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everyone. A spectacular, exciting, perplexing second race of the night here from Silverstone has just been completed, and we are joined by our 3, I would imagine, fairly worn out podium finishers after what was a ding-dong battle for the victory there over the final few minutes. It looked like being more of a fight for second place until connection issues befell our race leader, Carl Felvers, and it all meant that we got a new race winner here at the VRRC. But we're going to be speaking to him in a few minutes' time. We're going to start with our 3rd place finisher, though, and that was Joel Lask. Joel, congratulations, back on the podium again. A heavier car than you had a week ago. I'm sure that held you back a little bit tonight, but all in all, I think you've got to be pretty satisfied with the points scored.
I must admit, if someone had told me I was going to get 3rd place at the end of that one, I'd have bitten your hand off. The car's just been horrible to drive with all that ballast. I was hanging on for dear life from probably 10 minutes towards the end. Tyres are completely gone. So, yeah, that was definitely an interesting one, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, a slightly confusing finish to the race, obviously, but I guess you weren't really able to focus on what was going on with Kyle because you were embroiled in a fantastic scrap there. You and Nathan had a great battle all race long, and then that sort of allowed Tom to join in at the end there. A good, fun battle to watch. Were you enjoying being a part of it?
No, not really. Battle-wise, yeah. I mean, it was great. Fair play to Nathan. He definitely had more pace than me, and he was obviously sitting back and waiting to make his move, which he did do. So fair play to him. But yeah, the weight difference between both him and Tom was quite vast. So I was expecting it to happen. I was just waiting for it. And I thought, you know what, I might be able to hold him off. I might be able to white line it, but the tires are completely gone by the end, and I was understeering all over the place.
Unfortunately, I think tyre management is going to be something you really have to deal with next week as well at Castle Combe. A bit of a venture into the unknown, really. We've not raced at Castle Combe perhaps ever, or certainly not very often here at the VRRC. So plenty of practice laps for next week.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, my plan was I'll drop a load of weight on this one from coming so far back, but apparently that hasn't happened. So we have to go to Plan B here and change up the approach a little bit. But yeah, lots of practice laps to go in.
So you see, you will keep on finishing on the podium, Joel. That's the deal, unfortunately. But really solid night for you, and congratulations. Some more good points scored. We'll see you again next week.
Cheers, appreciate it.
So, Joel Lask gets the third place finish. It's a second place finish this time around, but a consistent night for Tom Churchhouse, who catches up now with Jack.
Yeah, Tom, I mean, at pole position, second place, another podium as well in race one. I mean, my goodness, that was a good night. Or do you sort of feel like it could have been slightly better?
It probably could have been, but I'll take second and second, especially coming from the back as well. Just trying to keep it consistent. And you know what? I didn't lamp anyone this time, so it went quite well.
I like that attitude. Yeah, take the positive out of that one. You obviously came at a late surge right at the end there, didn't you? Did you see Nathan and Joel having a little bit of a battle and thought, I sniff a race victory here? Did you even know a race victory was on the cards? Because obviously there's the confusion about that as well.
It was them battling that let me catch up. Without that, I'm not sure if I would have, even with the pace difference. So, yeah, I didn't expect a podium, though, definitely not.
Right, it was very impressive indeed. Is this the sort of pace we can come to expect from you for the next couple of rounds then? Or have you got the time to practice it? Have you got the time to go on and make a real charge for the championship?
I'll definitely practice more as I'm getting used to the front wheel drive. But I look forward to a very, very heavy car next time round.
That is the disadvantage of obviously doing well. But 2 second place, a pole position, not a bad points all for you, Tom. Congratulations and well done on a very entertaining evening's racing.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, well done, Tom. Really solid night, and I think we're going to be talking about him a fair bit more through the next 6 weeks or so. Likewise, actually, the driver who came out on top in that race, Nathan Smith, who joins us now. Nathan, I was already saying during that race how impressed I'd been with how your night had gone, and well, it ended in perfect fashion with a race victory, and what a race to win as well. You really had to fight for that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm very, very tired. I don't know if I can call it a win just yet because I feel quite bad for Kyle, obviously with his connection issues. But to come across the line in first place was brilliant for me. It's first time I've done it with VRRC, so yeah, really, really pleased.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's sort of been on the cards, I guess, because you have been quick. You were quick last week at Donington. Obviously, even faster again here at Silverstone. Is this a car that you were, you were always confident that you'd be quick in, or is it just that you've been really putting the practice in? You really like the track. What is it? Do you think that's been the main reason that this has become a reality?
Well, to be honest with you, it's neither. I didn't even download the track to practice on until we were coming straight into the race this evening. So that I've just been flat out all week. And then this car, I've never driven it before. Donington was the first go, but I just seem to have gelled with it quite naturally. I don't know. It's good. I mean, in that race there, Joel is definitely the better driver, had more pace. Kyle obviously disappeared, but I could really see Joel fighting hard with his extra weight, and it's just a waiting game. And then I managed to just pick him off, and then I had to start sweating even more when Tom caught up. So yeah, it was just hard work. But no, it's brilliant race.
I'm beginning to wonder if anyone put any practice in before tonight. Everyone's been saying that that they left it all to the last minute, but either way, it worked out clearly for you, Nathan. On to Castle Combe now next week, and of course, having got that first victory, the pressure's sort of on now to get another one, isn't it? You don't want to be a one-hit wonder. I'm sure you've got the ability to win more races. Might this maybe convince you to run a few more practice laps before next week?
Definitely, yeah. And I do quite like Castle Combe as well. So yeah, I'm going to get as much practice in as I can, because if I finish tonight the way I did, then yeah, hopefully the next meeting could potentially bring another podium. That'd be nice.
Absolutely, and who knows, maybe more race wins on the horizon as well. Nathan, huge congratulations from us all. Always nice to see a new winner, and for someone to do it in such spectacular fashion is particularly exciting. And that was a win. I mean, I know it's unfortunate what happened to Kyle there, but a win is a win. These things happen, unfortunately, in sim racing, and you should absolutely be proud of what you've achieved. So congratulations, and we'll see you again next week.
Nice one. Thank you. Bye bye.
Well, well, I don't really know what to say after that, Jack. That was pretty crazy. What we ought to do, though, I think, is give the Felvers family something to smile about, because I really do feel for Kyle after that. I mean, that is the sim racing equivalent of a car's engine blowing on the final lap, isn't it? There's nothing he could do, completely out of his hands. He did nothing wrong whatsoever, and unfortunately robbed of a race victory, but will not go home prizeless tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Driver of the round. I mean, it's hard to look past him, isn't it, really? The point was made on the YouTube chat, and quite often there's a rally for Kyle to get the driver of the round on the YouTube chat. This time we're actually listening to them because they are right. And I think two P1s, sometimes when you have two race victories, they can be fairly dull, so we look past them. But actually, his performance in the second race was very, very impressive. His performance in the first race as well, obviously driving well with Nicky, was quite a mature response to, obviously they could have fought and they could have battled each other and lost a race to Tom Churchhouse. But then the second race, it was very exciting to watch him carve through those top five. I'm sure he did a brilliant job before we saw him. So yeah, fully deserved a driver of the round in my opinion.
Yeah, 100% agree. So congratulations, Carl. Sorry it's not a race win, but don't let your head drop too much, because that was a fabulous drive across the two races tonight. Right, I need to go and have a lie down. Before I do that, let's remind ourselves of what we'll be doing in a week's time. We'll be mini racing once more, and we will be racing at Castle Combe. Rich perhaps can tell us, have we had a championship race at Castle Combe before? Well, of course we did, back in the Civic Cup days, yes, but certainly not a circuit that we've ventured to all that often. But we're going to put that right next week with our third round of the Mini JCW Racing League, to give it its full title, where it won't be anything like that commentary team, I'm afraid, next week. But we will have, I believe, Jack and Richard on comms for that one. I have been Andy McEwen, though. Jack has been Jack Oliphant, and we have been very happy to join you to talk through all of the action tonight. We will all be back at some point in the future to do it all over again. Until then, though, thanks for watching, and it's good night from us.